Hello everyone, I'm DonTheCrown, and today let's talk about Monster Hunter Wilds endgame weapon system, Artian Weapons. This is something that is available in high rank, so if you have not yet gotten the ending cutscene credits for Monster Hunter Wilds, it's probably going to have some spoilers in it, but it's a kind of a complicated system, so I want to make a video for it. Now, once you get into high rank, which is the post-credits part, you're going to start encountering tempered monsters. These tempered monsters are going to have special rewards, which are like these relic pieces. You kind of have to cobble together your own weapon with its own stats, and it can be, like I said, a little bit complicated. Now, if you look at the weapon here on my back, at first you might think this is some sort of chakram or Xena Warrior Princess thing. This is actually a dual blade. This is what the Artian weapons look like for, dual blades, and I had to manually go craft these myself. To do this, you want to go up to the smithy here, and we are going to go down to Forge Artian Weapons right here. And you get to choose what weapon type you want, and it is going to require that you have specific parts. So we can see that we need 2 blades and a disc in order to make a dual blade. And each and every single weapon has its own different combination of pieces that are required, and there are 4 different types of pieces. But don't worry, because I've been a crazy person and I've gone out and I've made a little spreadsheet here to kind of show what they all look like. So as we can see here, for example, the dual blade requires blades and discs, and other stuff here like greatsword needs 2 blades and a tube. Now, some of these combinations are going to be pretty good because they're not going to overlap, so you won't have to worry about like using blades that you're planning to use for your dual blades for greatsword or something like that, because you can just use these combinations. For example, dual blades and light bowgun, these do not overlap at all. This needs tubes and devices. Same thing with bow, tubes and devices. And so you're not going to have to worry about using the same things, which I think this makes these pretty good combinations. However, when we go through and we look at this, let's actually go and craft one here, or talk about crafting one. We can see here that the materials have a couple different things. And the only things you really need to worry about is what type it is. So is it a broken blade, tube, all this other stuff, what the rarity is. If I select a tier 8 rarity, which is the highest, there's 6, 7, and 8. And tier 8 only comes from kind of the pinnacle tempered monsters. These basically are going to lock me into only choosing other tier 8s. Whereas if I did a tier 7, I can only choose other tier 7s here. Now, the second thing is the element type. So if I match element types, I'm going to make an elemental weapon. And if I get 2 correct, we're going to get a little bit of fire, but then we're going to get even more if we add in a third. Another 20 fire damage here, which is pretty nice. And if you do not match at all, it will not be an elemental weapon. It will just be a physical weapon. And next up, the Artian bonus is going to either give you bonus to your attack, and this number is like the flat number without the modifiers on it, and so it'll give you flat 5 extra attack, or affinity infusion will give you 5% critical strike chance. I personally think is probably a little bit better than flat 5 physical, but I could be wrong on this for sure. And so basically you're going to want to match stuff so that they're probably all the same element if you're trying to make an element weapon, and probably like mostly all affinity, or maybe all attack if you're not going for crit at all. And this is pretty much how this works here. And then once you go and you match everything up here, you'll be able to craft a weapon. Now there are some kind of weird exceptions here, because if we go to light bowguns, for example, we can see here that if I go and I do like water, thunder here, we don't see anything. There's no elemental thing here, and the reason for this is because this gives us access to an ammo type of thunder ammo, and the capacity will go up by 1 if I match all 3 together, and it goes from 3 to 4. Likewise, if like we do paralysis or sleep, gives us access to ammo as well. Same thing for the bow. You will get direct elemental on the weapon, and if you get paralysis, sleep, blast, or poison, any of those types, it'll give you access to a different type of ammo, I believe. And so once you finish crafting your weapon here, the next section is kind of where the RNG sets in. So here we have 4 different Artian weapons. One that I crafted right off the bat. This is like just off the first tempered monsters I made, and it is level 5, and all of these max out at level 5 right now. Maybe they'll increase this in the future. I'm kind of hoping that they do not increase this because these are already pretty RNG. But this is one here that is a tier 8, and it's tier 8 level 0. And so in order to level this up, it's going to require 3,000 points, which is quite a bit of materials here. You can see all these different ores and stuff that you can get from out in the world. This is not stuff that you actually mine though. This is stuff that is like pretty rare from the delivery from the fire festival. And you can also go and smelt this stuff by sacrificing monster parts here in Oil Well Basin. And so when you go and level these up, you are basically going to be getting additional bonuses to the weapon. So you see all the way there on the right, you can see the reinforcement bonuses that my weapon has, both my fire and my thunder one here. And there's a whole bunch of different things that you can get. I've seen attack boost, I've seen elemental boost, sharpness boost, and yeah, those are the ones that I've seen. Sharpness being pretty darn nice, gives us quite a bit of sharpness here. You see the one on the left has 2 sharpness boosts for the fire weapon, whereas the one on the right has 3 elemental boosts. And if we go and we kind of just look at the basic like color there, we can see the left side one has a lot of sharpness over the one on the right. I believe we also do have handicraft as well in there. And one of the nice things about these Artian weapons, especially at the top end, is you're going to get some really great gem slots. So the tier 6 one has all 2 slots, but then the tier 8s have triple tier 3s, which makes these extremely comparable to other weapons. It's like if we, for example, here go and we look at other tier 8 weapons, we can see here that like the Wyvern Sentinels versus my Fire Tilt Trace has a little bit more flat, has less affinity, way less element, has, you know, less sharpness, and the gem slots or the decoration spots are a lot worse. The thing that Wyvern Sentinels do have is they have 1 critical element and Master's Touch. So it's pretty much Master's Touch is an additional level 3 gem slot, which is pretty nice. And critical element 1 is pretty decent as well. So I think that these overall could be quite comparative, but if you really want a nice like kind of RNG weapon, the Artian weapon is going to be pretty nice. Now, in order to get those materials to level up stuff, you're going to be here in Oil Well. Once you're talking to Gemma, and you can run over here to this guy, the Smelting Foundry, and this is where you can go and you can make armor spheres. You can get the festival shares. This is rolls in over time, but then you can also smelt ore. And smelting ore requires that you pretty much go and sacrifice materials, and you can sort this by the amount or how much default you have. And so I could go and, you know, take a whole bunch of these arc felt certificates here and try to, you know, smelt stuff. You see smelting, it's going to tell me exactly what we get, and it does take 50 ore calcite here in order to level up a rank 8 weapon to the max. Now, one last thing I do want to talk about here is looking for the best in slot type of stuff on the map. So what I'm looking for here is like open up the map here. I can see kind of what is currently available here. I can see there's no tempered monsters. But if I open up the world map and just start looking around, I can see, for example, here that there's a tempered Rathalos, and I could go and hover over that. And I can see that this guy is giving the rarity 6 materials. Rarity 6 actually makes rarity 7 weapons, and the rarity 7 materials makes rarity 8 weapons. I'm not really sure why they screwed that up, but you can do kind of 2 things. You can either run this mission or you can save it as an investigation, which allows you to run it multiple times, which I'll probably make a whole separate video about. But you can just kind of like look around and see. So for example, down here in Windsward Plains, we have a tempered Doshugama, and this guy also has this material. But it's typically the very easiest tempered mobs that are going to have the lowest tier here. So we like tempered Nursilla or whatever. This guy has the rarity 5 relic stuff, and then, you know, if you find a pinnacle boss running around that has tempered on it, it's going to also have additional stuff. Now, I've saved a whole bunch of these into my quest counter here. So let's go and just look real quick. of investigations here, for example, on Tempered Arcveld, and some of these bonus rewards can be a pretty insane amount, and some of them like don't even really make any sense. The difference between like this Tempered Arcveld and this one is that there's just an extra bear to hunt, which is pretty darn easy. And then some of these like have a tempered mob along with a pinnacle boss that doesn't give us the pinnacle materials as well. And yes, you can get like tempered Jin Dahad, which this doesn't really seem all that worth it. And you can get some other nice stuff here as well. You could also go here into the SOS and look for things like Tempered Arcveld on high rank, and you can just look around for people that are running these that have a lot of rewards. This is definitely a lot of rewards to run, and maybe these are going to be one of the more popular things to group up for. As you can see, you get some of these have a lot of materials, whereas some of them don't have barely any materials. Like 2 relics for this is not really even worth running, I don't think, right now, compared to the ones that can give you like almost 12. But that's pretty much it for the weapons right now. I think that there's a lot of potential for making these very, very strong, especially because decorations at the high end here can give you quite a bit. So for example, this one here, we have a blaze focus gem in there. So we get like a level 1 focus and a level 3 fire attack. And so these level 3 gems or decorations can be quite strong. Same thing here with the crit element frost jewel. We just have crit element 3, frost 1. That's pretty decent. And then we have a handicraft 3 as well. And oh, there was one more thing I didn't want to talk about. I almost forgot about this. Let's talk about elemental types and what is going to be the very best. So the elemental types that I think is going to be important are, you're probably going to want a total of 3 weapons. So dragon is pretty darn important because the hardest bosses are all weak to dragon, and then Arcveld is only weak to dragon. So it's pretty darn important to have that covered. However, it's not necessarily going to cover everything. And I think that the best combinations are kind of going to depend on what you like to fight. But it's either going to be fire, water, dragon, or water, thunder, dragon. Now, perfect world, you're going to have like all the weapons maxed out. But this is probably the ones that I would like aim for the most, or kind of work towards really worrying about and like investing my materials to level up. Because these are going to cover pretty much every single enemy here. With the fire, water, dragon, you're just going to be missing Chatakabra, Balahara, Uthduna, and Zuwu. But Zuwu is kind of a jerk, and he only is weak to ice, so it's kind of I kind of have to have an ice weapon for him. Uthduna, I believe, is weak to just thunder, so unless you have a thunder weapon, Uthduna is just going to slip away, which is just kind of annoying. And so I think that these are probably the best combinations for now. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the guide. I'll put a link to this document in the description down below. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll see you again soon.